For the first time in almost a year, I'm bringing back the best buys segment, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So I'm not going to have a big complex spreadsheet where everything is broken down by category because we don't have enough inventory to do that. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through the top 4 options, and that is regardless of category or price point, that I truly feel could be had for a value. So let's dive right in. So as you can see here, these are the 4 that we're going to be talking about today, but I want to give you a little bit of context before we go through them to let you know what I look for and why I consider these a value. So when looking through the inventory on a daily basis, like I do, I like to look for not only opportunities that may have been on the market for a while, and we have maybe seen some price reductions that tell us that the seller may have some real motivation. But step number 1 is to try to identify properties where sellers are more likely to have motivation than not, because let's be real, most of the listings here in Ocean City are just up there to see if a seller can get a number. There's not a real need or desire to sell. It's just, hey, look, if I can get close to this, yeah, I'd move. That doesn't really give you as a buyer a whole lot of leverage, wiggle room, negotiation room, whatever you want to call it. So my job, especially during deal season over the next 60 days, is to help identify these to where you can strike while the iron's cold, which I know is the opposite of what you're supposed to do. But with most buyers from a psychological standpoint, walking away for now because of the holidays coming up, because it's not quite as warm to come down here on the weekends and house hunt, you are going to have a lot less competition than if you wait, like most other people, until the spring returns. Most of the activity picks up again in February. So that's step number 1, is identify the properties that are likely to have some room on the asking price. And step number 2 is to identify truly unique values compared to comparable sales. So let's just say there may or may not, right? I can't speak for these sellers. These are not all my listings, but I do have the approval to speak about these at large from the listing agents. There are opportunities to get in a unique location for a particular price where you will not see that opportunity again. And there's one on this list, which happens to be my listing, full disclosure, 6 West 8th Street, that is just that. So those are really the top 2 things that are required to really make this list. So with that out of the way, let's go one by one. We're just going to go top to bottom or left to right. So as we wait for this page to load, and if you like what you see here, this is my personal website. I don't require any scraping of information to see properties like a lot of agents out there do. Feel free to use this site. It's a great tool that not only captures our MLS, but a few MLSs, unlike if you are set up to receive email alerts from an agent straight through the local MLS, because some agents don't list them in the right place. So this particular property is down on the north end. And why this is on the list is primarily due to the lot size, given the condition of what you're going to get here. So this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, first floor condo. There is a storage shed out back. And what I'm not going to do is click through all these pictures. Again, the links are going to be down in the description so that you can check these out if you so choose. But this is nice inside. The 2 bathrooms are totally redone. This is on a 50 by 105 foot lot. Normally, a 3-bed, 2-bath condo is on a 30 by 100 lot at best. And then anything over that is on an oversized lot. You rarely see them on a 50-foot lot. Now, there is some room around this. This is not built, to the property lines like the newer builds tend to be. So it's not massive inside, but it is about 20% larger than your standard 3-bed, 2-bath in terms of square footage. So this is worth looking through. I think this does have some pretty substantial rental potential. Full disclosure here, I did not run the numbers on this. This does not have rental history. We would have to project out. So if you're interested in that, certainly reach out. I'd be happy to run an analysis for you. But I think as far as 3-bed, 2-baths go, right, when we're talking about paying $1 million to get on Asbury at this point, this is a pretty good deal. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is very unique. So 104 Atlantic is right next to a lovely restaurant, as well as sandwiched on the other side by some new construction homes. Downside of this, and why I think it's sat out here, it started over $1 million. It's now sitting here at $940,000. Is it lacks parking. So this is a 6-bedroom property. It's huge. It's the 2nd floor, really 2nd/3rd floor, in a good location. And I think from a rental standpoint, in the past, years and years ago, pulled in between 60 and 65,000 in rental income. Now, if you start marking those rents up for how they've changed since these particular owners have rented, you'd be in the $70,000-$75,000 range pretty easily. And my barrier, if I'm just doing some very quick math, right? If you start to approach 10%, meaning your total income divided by your asking price is close to 10%. That's a great freaking deal. And that's not a guarantee that you're going to make money right away. It depends on your scenario, how much money you put down, and a lot of other factors. But this is a steal when it comes to rental income for the price you're paying. Now, think about this. There have been people, plenty of people, paying nearly $1 million or over $1 million for a 3-bed, 2-bath, whether it's Asbury Central, and I wouldn't even argue it's closer to the beach. Newer, right? This is not a newer building, but at best, maybe you're pulling in 40,000. If you really rent the heck out of it in the off season, you can do a little bit better than that. But I'm just talking summer income here, 70 to 75,000, pretty easily. That's a slam dunk, right? Almost double your income for spending the same amount of money. So if you're interested in this one, I believe that there is some room here to negotiate, and I'll leave it at that. If you want to talk more about this, obviously, or any of these, definitely just reach out. All my contact info is in the description. I'd be happy to talk you through a little bit more in detail on the one that you're interested in. So 6 West 8th Street. So why this is on the list, I want to be very transparent with you. Again, this is my listing. So this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, first floor on the Lagoon, right on 8th Street. If we are looking for other properties and a way for you to get on the water, right? Single families are far above 2 million at this point to be able to get on the water, approaching 3 million extremely rapidly to even have a shot. Teardowns are over 2 million at this point. So if you want to get on the water, this is a very value-focused way to do so. Other 3-bed, 2-baths that have sold recently, one in August and one just a week ago, I believe, sold for right around 1.5 million. Now, admittedly, those were on the open bay. They were newer buildings, not new by any stretch, but newer. This one you would likely want to customize to fit your needs and your taste. But if we're talking about a $500,000 savings for the condition, location, and age, that's a substantial reduction. This is a huge property at over 1,700 square feet, which dwarfs the other two. This does come with a dedicated boat slip. The pier you're seeing in this picture here on the left-hand side belongs exclusively to the first floor. There's a cabana room that you can access right downstairs from your main living area that you can use for anything that you so choose, be it a bar, an extra bedroom. That's not legal, but whatever you want to use the space for, it's there. So there's a lot going on with this property. It's a great situation for the price, and I will be surprised if this sticks around for too long. And I know it's literally one of my least favorite things when I see that in a listing description. It's going to go fast. I'm not going to be so bold as to say it's going to go extremely fast. But I do think this is an incredible value that if you want to get on the water, it's worth seeing and learning more about, because you are not going to get on the water for less than $1 million in a 3-bedroom anything in Ocean City any longer. So last but not least, this is one that I, quite frankly, did not like for a very long time. I did go through a broker's open house quite a few months ago, and I started to see a little bit of the appeal here. And let me talk you through this. So if you haven't already looked at this one, if you're looking for a single family home, this is probably one of the better, if not the best deal on the island. It's not going to be for everybody because it is on a narrow lot, but this is a 5-year-old building, right? Everything is good to go. It's only 5 years old. The design and the style inside, maybe even outside, may not be for everybody, right? It's not your stereotypical beach theme by any stretch, but I think with a little bit of vision, and this is one where I'm actually going to go through some of the pictures on, because I think it's certainly worthwhile. If you change just a few things, like this kitchen's great, pretty darn spacious. As we start to go through the home, once we get through some of these pictures, now we start to see definitely again, non-beachy style, but these things can be changed. And you will likely need some vision to kind of take all of this out with your eyes and then replace with things that would be your style. But I believe that this home could be had a good bit under the asking price because of how long it's been on the market, because of the lack of activity. And I believe there is a little bit of motivation here on the seller's behalf to, sell. They're not just going to hold this if they don't get 1.2. That's my assumption anyway. But it's a narrow home. There are some things, again, layout wise, that are definitely unique. You won't see them in another home. It does have an elevator. So if you or somebody in your family requires that as a part of the situation, you're not going to find an elevator in a property for this price, period. So there are some things you'd probably want to do here and can certainly be rectified. There are some things that can't, right? You can't make the building any wider. But from a location standpoint, you're legitimately only 2 to 3 blocks from the beach. You are also 2 to 3 blocks from the community center, from pickleball courts, from a lot. Whether this is a year-round home, which I think it could be, I would definitely put some garage doors on the carports to enclose those if that's going to be the case. Let me find a picture of those for you just so you know what I'm talking about here. So these carports, I think, it would not be terribly expensive to get some garage doors here, whether you use one for parking, whether you use none for parking. Um, in theory, you could even turn this back here into parking, right? If you don't feel like cutting the grass, turn it into stone and make that a parking pad. There's, again, many options, and I think you would have to change some things about this for it to make sense, but it's all very doable. And if we're talking about a single family home, 2 to 3 blocks from the beach with an elevator, 5 years old, potentially garage, plus off-street parking, you're not going to find anything better. And if this is, like I was saying, a full-time residence, it could work. If this is a second home, it could definitely work. And I think you have an opportunity here for a very unique rental property too. If you only want to spend a little bit of time here, right? Most people want to know what the rental potential is going to be. And again, I'm not going to speculate on that because it would depend on what you do to the property. But again, as a renter, if you rent down here currently, how much would you be willing to pay for a home like this, right? Versus being in a shared building. The list goes on. So there's a lot, again, with this property, with all four of these properties, there's a ton of potential in them. And it's just a matter of what is the value to you, right? What trade-offs are you potentially willing to make in order to get a deal? So one by one again, right? 5 Wesley Avenue, great north end location, big space, much bigger lot than you're going to get otherwise, plus off-street parking. 104 Atlantic, and it has 6 bedrooms, and you're going to make 70,000+ in rental income potentially. In a perfect world, around 900,000. You're not going to find an opportunity like that elsewhere on the island. 6 West 8th Street, getting on the water for under $1 million with a boat slip and everything and all the space that's in here. Yes, it needs some love, but what's the price for you where the work would be worth it? And the same goes for 309 East 17th Street for a very nice single family home. Yes, stylistically, it's probably not something that you dream about at night, but a lot of that can be rectified. And I believe you can add equity into this home very, very quickly with, I don't know, 20 to 30,000 worth of work. I think you could probably, get yourself an additional 100,000 in equity pretty quickly. So that is it for this edition of Best Buys. And I'm not going to be doing this every week. Again, inventory is not turning over quickly enough. We're not getting enough of it to where that's justified. So there's not going to be a set cadence for this. But if you want to be aware of when they're coming out, make sure you subscribe. And most of you who watch this are not subscribed currently. That's what YouTube tells me. So make sure you do that and turn on the notification bell, and then you'll know if there's a Best Buy video, you will get an email that a new one has come out. So that's it. As always, thank you for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.